Alright, let's talk a little about how Leffen and Zayn, their winners final set, how that went. Where Marth doesn't necessarily have a guaranteed win on Sheik on FD, but you know what other character does? It's Ice Climbers. And turns out, doing the whole chain grab thing and handoffs and just playing neutral without any of the platforms isn't really that hard. And that's something that Zayn, I think after his collision loss to Jmu twice on FD, he really wanted to have a more polarizing counter pick and decided that this is now the time. Because I think the reason why he really wanted to pull it out here was to just kind of get it out of his head to really see the benefits and the limitations of doing something like that. And especially, dude, it's just that right now, Sheik Marth is pretty hard for Marth at the moment. Like, at the moment, we really don't hit the Sheiks that hard. And because of that, where Sheik actually hits Marth really hard on FD and, like, all stages, basically, Zayn wants to win. He doesn't care about sticking to Marth all the time. He wants to win, and he wants to stick to a strategy that's going to give him the best odds. And this is something he's never, ever done in his career. I can't think... Correct me if I'm wrong. This is literally the first time Zayn has tried another character at a major, right? I don't think there's any other times, right? So he really wanted to test this out, see how it would happen after he gained the counter pick advantage game 1, how he, dropped game 2. I was like, all right, now it's time. And there's no way, especially Leffen's secondary Sheik has ever trained for Ices. Now, I actually talked about Leffen about this a little, where I did warm him up right before he had to play Zayn. And he actually requested that I play Marth Fox with him, like, couple on FD, couple in Stadium. Because he was actually concerned about the Ices counter pick. Because he did see Zayn also warming up his Spark, and his ICs having a very competitive set against Spark on FD. Leffen then, I asked what his thoughts were about it. He said, first, I want to see if Zayn has balls to do it. Because he wasn't going to try Fox at first. Because he knows that he probably has a better shot doing Fox Marth on FD than Sheik Ices on FD. But first of all, he wants to see if Zayn has the balls to pull it out. And second of all, even if he does pull out the Ices, he theorized that Zayn would not be able to switch 2 characters in mid-tournament. Especially since Ices and Marth do not share the same jump squat. They're very... It's 1 frame different, but that 1 frame matters a lot, as we're going to see soon. And Leffen theorized that, Zayn's not going to be able to probably switch the 2 characters seamlessly. And also, this tournament had transformations on. And he knew that even if the Ices came out Game 5 on Stadium, because there's transformations and there's still the help of the side platform, he knew that he would have the edge at the end of all of this. So he willingly took the L, essentially, on FD, where, first of all, he just wanted to see if Zayn would actually go through with it. But secondly, there was a lot of unintended effects. So very clearly, Leffen actually really thought about this intently. It's pretty in character for Leffen to be prepared. I mean, there's a reason why he's a god in multiple fighting games, one of the best players to ever do it in Melee. And yeah, he'll say it, he was definitely not prepared for this. He doesn't really have a game plan against this, as we see here. And honestly, neither does... It's not like Zayn's game plan is super polished and optimized, but it's doing its job. It's doing its job for one thing and one thing only. Yeah, I mean, it looks like for a solid minute on all of this, where Zayn, it's did Zayn figure it out? Is Zayn just gonna have the counterpick edge for the rest of the time against these Sheiks? Because, also, keep in mind that this could work against Plup and Jmook, where we know that Jmook's not immune to Ices, as, he got brutally 3-0'd by Slug. He also lost to Marth. So, it's not just that, it's not just that Leffen doesn't know the matchup. It's like, look at this, dude. Look at this. Apparently, Ices have, a guaranteed chain grab until, 90-something%. I know Sheiks can make it harder by DIing to center and like doing slight DI, but the fact that they could just do this is insane. Like, I've been pointing out how Marth struggles to kill against Sheik. That's not the case for ICs. Like, yeah, their neutral game is way worse than Marth, but that doesn't matter, because one grab, insta-kill, kind of. With one Sopo, it's tough, but with two climbers, oh, oh. And I don't know. I'm willing to bet that Zayn's ICs has, like, less than 100 hours played. I've never really seen Zayn play Ice Climbers super seriously in, like, you know, casual friendlies. I've definitely seen his Fox. Like, I could believe that his Fox has 1,000 hours, but I struggle to believe that his ICs has more than, like, 200 hours, you know? But it doesn't matter. If you're only doing it for one matchup, and they have this deadly, this lethal of a punish game where Sheik can't grab, Sheik struggles to deal with CC, struggles to deal with the Blizzard walling. They just do that, you know? And, you know, this is a much simpler game plan than, you know, bringing out the Puff, because Puff is, you know, I know we meme on Puff for being a brain dead easy character, but she still has complexities, and there's a lot of nuance to how Puff like finds her setups, whereas like IC's is a lot more straightforward. However, even though it looked like Zayn solved it, there's some unintended consequences when it comes to bringing stuff out like this. Trying to switch between two characters in Melee, game this deep, this complex, is hard. It's really hard. And you already see it from here. That dare may look a little innocuous at first, but every Marth main knows this mistake. Where this short hop early dare, it's a wave dash down tilt. It's a wave dash down tilt. The way how I know that it's supposed to be a wave dash down tilt, by the way, is if he meant to do this dare, he would have done a late dare, so then, you know, he could get an actual follow out of it. But he did a rising dare, which indicates that this was supposed to be a wave dash down tilt input. And the reason why he missed this is probably because he was used to the 3-frame jump squat that Ices had, and used the exact same timing where Marth actually has a 4-frame jump squat, and because he was 1 frame early with his wave dash down tilt input, he probably inputted the wave dash button, the trigger buttons, a frame early, and it completely skipped the air dodge, and because Melee is so unforgiving with no buffer system, he instantly misinputs a wave dash down tilts and gets shield grab for it. Meanwhile, Leffen's warm the entire time with Sheik. Even though he got fucked at the Ices game, he's doing fine. Meanwhile, Zayn, noticeably, he looks a lot more stiff than before. After he had a nice little vacation with chain grabbing of Ices. I'm gonna tell you the subtle things of how Zayn's Marth look a little bit more stiff. Not only just like his execution, his decision making to do a short up dare when there's needles all over the ground. That's like that's weird. I feel like if he was super sharp, he wouldn't do that. And yeah, it's weird stuff like this. This is normally a tipper forward smash setup. It's just better to do. Not only did this up smash, you know this was a mistake, because if he meant to do this up smash, he would have inputted it earlier, so then he didn't need to leave it to chance a shield poke. Forward smash also comes out faster. So another misinput. Another slot that you have to wonder that if it wasn't for Ice Climbers, would he have made that mistake? And he's trying his best to, like, you know, warm back up to Marth. Because normally how Zayn likes playing invincibility is going to ledge, playing around the platforms. He's trying to actively move around because he wants to warm up his Marth. So he's trying to waveland around the platforms. And this is a very subtle thing that you're seeing it actively hurt Zayn. Because now he's trying to move around the platforms to kind of get back his Marth feel. And Leffen took the opportunity to full up air him. And then that weird up B? Huh? You just really have to wonder, right? Still never forgot how to dash back grab, though. You know, some things you don't forget. Yeah. Look at this. Up air, up tilt, peak Zayn would never ever miss that. He not warm. And that's exactly what this is what Leffen was theorizing when I asked him that question, like, oh, are you worried about the icy? He's like, yeah, obviously I am, but I want to see if Zayn can actually pull it off without it affecting his Marth too much. And you can't tell me after looking at like all the little things that Zayn, the mistakes that he made with his execution inputs, game plan errors, that Leffen would be up this much. Like, this could have potentially be an even game, but because Zayn made multiple input errors, it's looking a lot sloppier now. And Melee is a lot about how you execute your game plans, I'd say. Like, if you can't, even if you have a good game plan, but you're executing it really badly, you will just lose. And now Zayn is in a conundrum. It's like, dude, now it's Marth's shit. It's not at the level that is required to beat Leffen. It's literally, like, not even the same Marth from game 1. And he's stuck in a hard place right now because normally I think it would be an easy Icy's call if it wasn't stadium transformations, but he has to worry about that. But also, so like maybe he should stick it out with Marth, but his Marth's not it's so cold right now. It's so cold. And he might as well, since he committed the Icy's game plan, just go all Icy's at this point. His Marth probably won't get warmed up in time. It's unfortunate that this was the time that he chose to pull it out, because if it wasn't transformations, it would have looked a lot cleaner. That being said, Zayn, you're starting to see how, like, he very clearly does not main this character, because apparently, like, what Ices is supposed to do is, like, Shark underneath Sheik and do a short hop up air. Zayn was inputting a full hop up air, so it's like, familiarity is definitely off. It's not safe for Sheik to be up there, apparently, but because Zayn wasn't really inputting short hop up air, as opposed to... He did, like, unsafe full hop up airs. Now it's looking rough and weird. You could tell it was specifically only for FD, rather than Stadium. So there was that problem, where, like, he wasn't short up airing properly, missed inputs to, like, up tilt, accidental full up air, maybe. And even if it wasn't transformation, Zayn might have just gotten fucked up anyways. That side platform was the main deciding factor, seeing how Zayn couldn't really input up air that consistently. So, and his transformation kind of just seals it, you know. Looking rough. This really is the Sheik Icy's meta too. By the way, this is what I thought would happen a lot with Stadium transformations, is that they just camp it out like this. So to all the Stadium transformation lovers, I think for the most part we weren't really used to it, but there's gonna be, if this becomes more of a norm, then we're probably just gonna camp out. And also, yeah, like, Zayn's Icy's not really super consistent with the handoffs right now. Literally should have been a kill. Yeah, it doesn't desync correctly. That doesn't forward smash. Nana bails him out. So it's like, because he had to switch back and forth so much between Marth and Ice, I'm sure he's practiced this. Like, you don't bring this out if you haven't sufficiently practiced this setup enough. But because he's trying to juggle two different complex characters, that's why you're seeing these drops. It's, we're seeing, at first it looked like a genius idea. We're seeing kind of like the unintended consequences that Zayn wasn't prepared for. Also, I wonder how long this lasts, but it doesn't matter. He just drops it. One could figure that if you put it in the oven some more, probably would have looked a lot different. Because, like, it's not that hard to form, like, a slightly better game plan between Icy Sheik. I just think Zayn didn't input his short up airs correctly half the time. Needs to be a little bit more in tune with grab follow-ups, handoffs. Like, this should be death here. And he didn't DI to the side platform for some reason, but instead of doing the handoff, he just goes to shortcut with the forward smash, which is, like, literally the whole point is there's not supposed to be a shortcut, there's a guaranteed death. So, like, it's hard to say that, like, even though Zayn's game plan didn't really account much for the side plat, he could have won if he just hit that. But because he dropped it, it's, yeah, that's a shame. And he drops this. It's hard to say what Sopo should do there. yeah, he just loses. Not too much to talk about here. So I think if you are intending to pick up another character to counterpick, because at the end of the day, there's actually nothing wrong with counterpicking characters. Because in theory, if you have a better matchup and you want to win, go for it, right? I think if you're trying your all to win and it looks good on paper, yeah, go for it. But you have to be aware of the unintended consequences of playing characters with different jump squats, for example. This is the big reason why Leffen chose to pick up Sheik. I think he was like, before he was deciding picking up another character against the Marth matchup, he was actually considering Marth doing, but he chose Sheik instead because they had the same jump squats. That's a big factor of why Leffen decided to dual main Sheik Marth, or no, Sheik Fox rather than Fox Marth, is because of the same jump squats, so then the adjustments aren't as bad. Meanwhile, ICs and Marth, we literally saw the consequences of that Zayn literally couldn't input a way dash down tilt properly. Secondly, I think it's also good that so the second consequence of playing a different character is that I know it's meant to play against one matchup only, but it's good to have a holistic understanding of your character as well, and playing it in variety of matchups and putting in tons of hours, because this looked like, with all due respect to Zayn's ICs, it looked like he put like less than 200 hours total in playing ICs. If you want this to work consistently, you're gonna have to pour tons of hours to make this like an ironclad pick, you know? Like, when we think about other secondaries, Armada poured thousands of hours into his Fox. King obviously spent thousands and thousands of hours with his other characters. Mango has poured so much time between his Fox and Falco. And Leffen spent like 2 years during the COVID pandemic era really cooking up his Sheik. And even though it's meant for just Marth, we've seen it bail him out against DK, against Ringler. And it would be pretty good in other matchups too. You could tell that he's poured in a lot of time into Sheik. And like, even though he clearly didn't know what he was doing against ICs, it did look a little bit more fluid overall. Despite Leffen not really having a game plan of what to do against Sheik ICs. At the end of all of it, if you really want to develop your counterpick character, it needs to have, first and foremost, just a shit ton of hours. And that has opportunity cost, because if you're pouring a lot of time into that character, you know that's not being poured to your main, right? And if you're gonna pour like 1,000 hours into a secondary, that's the 1,000 hours that you didn't put into your main. And that extra 1,000 hours could have been, you know, the big difference maker of what makes you win a game or not. That's why I don't pick up another character. Even though, like, yeah, on paper, I would totally love an ICs against Sheik on FD. But I just know that it would take way too much time. And frankly, I don't feel like a good enough player yet where I feel like if I were to pour my time to another character, I would get better results. It's like, no, I think my Marth would suck ass if I sacrifice all my time to not play Marth, to play ICs for one matchup, for one stage. Like, that's just not the opportunity cost that I feel like is worth it right now. What I do feel like it may be worth it is you feel like there's a cap in this matchup. Like, that's why Leffen invested in the Sheik, because he felt like Fox Marth had a cap, and there's just more potential with Sheik Marth. If you do feel like you don't feel like the opportunity cost is worth it, that would be poured to your main, I think that's a valid reason to, you know, pick up a secondary. I don't feel like it's worth it for me right now. I feel like if I just poured 1,000 more hours to my Marth, I would just get a lot better, versus if I were to, I don't know, like pick up a Fox for like Puff, Yoshi, Sheik. Like, I don't feel like that would be worth it, because frankly, for Fox, I probably need 2,000 hours to like really match the top level wins that I need off of Fox. And it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'd rather pour 2,000 more hours to Marth. At the end of all of this, not only does it take a lot of time, you have to wonder that if you put all that time to one character for just as a counterpick, shouldn't you just make it your dual main at that point, really? I feel like at that point, you might as well invest it to be a more complete thing. That's why I think you see a lot of success with like the 5 gods with their multiple characters, like, you know, PP's Marth Falco, Armada's Fox Peach, Mango Fox Falco. It's not really a counterpick character anymore. It's literally your dual main that you pick, not even necessarily because it's a matchup thing, but because you feel like it's better for that day specifically. It takes a lot of time and effort to have a counterpick character like that, and how Zayn is viewing it in the future is that he's probably going to definitely pour more time into ICs, you know, perfecting the handoffs and all that. He says that he wants to save ICs for Game 5 in FD, but if you watch Grands of this tournament, he didn't get the chance to do that because he didn't have the counterpick lead at some point, and that just makes all this time useless, you know? If you were, say, a dual main instead, you don't need to be reliant on having a counterpick lead. All that practice for ICs was essentially useless if Zayn doesn't have a counterpick lead. If you're gonna pour into another character, you might as well make it your dual main, so then it has more applications, you're able to switch between the two characters easier, and it might just be like your better character that day. Like, you know, what if Zayn doesn't want to play the Marth Ditto against me and he just busts out his Ice Climbers? It might not be a better matchup per se, but if he feels like his Ice Climbers is playing better, then sure, you know? Going multiple characters in Melee is so hard, and also there's just so much like unexpected consequences, because like literally after this set, I saw Leffen warming up with a Zamu's Ice Climbers with a Zelda. And who's to say that Zayn's ICs designed to beat Sheik would win against Zelda? I can't be so sure that Zayn's ICs would beat Zelda at the moment. You gotta be careful when you're picking up characters that's designed to beat one character only, because there could just be weird shit that could happen. Like, remember Chudat Mutaking, where it was fucking Ganondorf versus Fox? Like, when you go down that rabbit hole, it's just like, you know you kind of fucked up somewhere. The reason why people, by the way, everybody hated Mutaking's Peach because he very clearly has not poured 1,000 hours into playing Peach. If you make it your dual main, as opposed to just a counterpick character, you are a lot more complete, and it makes it better. It's just, at the end of the day, is that worth the opportunity cost? And to be honest, for me, I don't know. For Zayn, the answer might legitimately be yes, but I think for anybody that's not the top 10 level, you are probably shooting yourself in the foot with that opportunity cost, you know? Throw back to my improvement tier list video. I consider picking up another character to be like D tier or something like that, or unlikely to improve, because you're just splitting your time so much. Like, you're limiting yourself essentially with, like, you know, not enough knowledge to get better as a player. So think carefully when you try to pick up another character. That's the spiel that I wanted to give for Sheik versus ICs.